Now, the EFF has added its voice to calls for Justice Minister Thembi Simelane to step down over alleged links to the VBS Mutual Bank saga. Simelane allegedly accepted a loan of over R500,000 from a company linked to the looting of the now-defunct VBS Bank. News 24 and the Daily Maverick reported that she used the money to buy a coffee shop in Sandton. At the time, Simelane was the mayor of Polokwane. The municipality illegally invested close to R350 million into VBS. Action SA has since asked the public protector to investigate the allegations, while the DA wants the minister to answer to Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Justice. Now, for more on that story, I am joined by the DA's member of the Parliament Portfolio Committee on Justice, Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach. Advocate Breytenbach, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let's just get straight into you as the DA are saying that the minister should come to Parliament to account. Tell us more.
Well, the problem is, as you have sketched, there's quite a lot of money invested illegally in VBS. Days later, the funds flow to Gando Wealth Management, and days after that, the 500,000 plus flows to the minister, and she doesn't deny that she used it to buy a coffee shop. So the transactions appear on the face of it to be problematic and certainly require investigation. But the minister must come to the Justice Portfolio Committee and explain A, this transaction, B, she must produce the documents. She says it was a bona fide commercial loan. Well, she needs to produce those documents to demonstrate that. She said it's been repaid. Well, we need to see some proof of that as well. And then, of course, the more glaring issue is the very glaring conflict of interest issue, both as the mayor of Polokwane investing money in VBS and then borrowing money from VBS to buy a coffee shop. But more importantly now, as the Justice Minister, who sits sort of at the head of the pyramid of criminal justice in South Africa, and the National Prosecuting Authority, which depends on the department for their budget, amongst other things, will be required to prosecute this matter if and when the investigation is done and they make a decision. So there's a rather glaring conflict there, and if the minister cannot satisfy the committee that all the bases have been covered, well then we'll have no choice but to ask that she consider either stepping down or be suspended.
Yeah, and I'm glad, Advocate, that you started there with the chronological sequence of events, because those matter too as to when that municipality invested into VBS and when her loan was approved as well. But when you're saying if she does then appear, you need to, furnish her with all the questions, she needs to furnish all the evidence and answers as well. If it is not satisfactory to the committee, what can be done thereafter if she doesn't step aside?
Well, we'll have to, call upon the president then to apply his mind to the matter and consider suspending her. We're not calling for that right now because we're not in possession of all the facts. So it's very difficult to make such a startling call unless you are in possession of all the facts. And so we must make an effort to find out what the facts are. If there's no cooperation in unraveling the facts, well, then we must consider a different route.
And while we need to gather all the facts first, you spoke about that glaring conflict of interest as well, with her role obviously particularly involved in the National Prosecuting Authority, who will surely be investigating these facts too.
Well, one would hope that amongst the other issues that they're investigating with VBS, and one must bear in mind that the National Prosecuting Authority doesn't investigate, they prosecute. So the police or the investigative directorate should be investigating the VBS matter, but the prosecuting authority is intimately involved and intricately involved in directing the investigation and leading the investigation and providing some direction. So the conflict of interest is obvious, it's glaring, and it's deeply concerning.
Yeah. You said if you don't then get any reprieve from all these mechanisms to try and get some answers and to the bottom of this, then you'll have to write to the president to ask him to apply his mind. Now, in the past, we've seen we can't ignore the politics as well. When it is an ANC-affiliated member, what happens in Parliament is that ANC members of Parliament then support their member of Parliament, whether it's a minister or anybody else who's under the spotlight. How is that going to work when, of course, now we have a very different positioning in Parliament? It looks very different with the GNU government. How are you going to navigate that space?
Well, you know, as you said, the space is now a different space altogether. The ANC do not have a majority. They don't enjoy anything that closely resembles a majority, and they can do nothing on their own, hence the coalition government. So the partners in the GNU or the coalition must apply pressure to the ANC to do the right thing. And yeah, they no longer enjoy that space in which they operate with impunity.
And finally, Advocate, you did say, of course, there's some questions that need to be asked, but just if you could put us into your mind, just the kinds of questions that you would be posing to the minister should she appear before the committee.
Well, I would certainly want to know how she considered and dealt with the conflict of interest as the mayor then borrowing money back from VBS to buy her own coffee shop. I would like to know how she intends to deal with the current very glaring conflict. And you know, the publications have put questions to her that she hasn't answered. But I would certainly like, if she says it was a commercial transaction, to see some documentary proof thereof, and she says it's been repaid, I would like to see some proof thereof as well. Not that that would necessarily change the state of affairs.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach.